Went into just full monk mode. My definition for that is you go to the gym, you sleep, you train again in the evening, you go to bed at 8:30. If you're up at 5, 6 the next day, you go for a run, and that's all you do.
Andrew Davies.
Born and raised in Brisbane, now running a production company.
And leading the charge on Apollo Gym's social media and fight promotions.
I would just go to the Muay Thai stadiums. I would just say to the stadium, hey, look, let me shoot some photos. I give them the shots. They like the shots. As in, I literally did that for free for 3 months, pretty much every weekend religiously.
His journey, anything but ordinary.
2 weeks later, I'm lying in ICU. I've been on life support for 10 days. And so then my mate comes in and he goes, look, we've spoken to the insurance company and they're not going to cover you. And the bill was already like 30 grand.
He's turning every setback into comeback.
From a tough start in Australia to rebuilding his life in Phuket.
Now he's behind the biggest fight night in Phuket.
How did he get here? Let's get into it. Welcome to the Little Fish Podcast, powered by ReadyBuild, bringing you the best price and value in knockdown rebuild and dual occupancy projects. If you're planning a single or a dual home build, book a call with me. Just scan the QR code on your screen or visit littlefishproperty.com/call to get started. And for all the property nerds out there, head to littlefishnetwork.com/free to unlock exclusive insights, property tools, and the best online property community in the game, completely free. Let's get into the pod. Welcome back to Australia's #1 podcast. We are the Little Fish and we speak to the big fish about town each and every week. Please like, share, subscribe. Guys, we're back for 2025. We're on the rooftop, Thailand, Phuket. Everyone that's been following along, and if you haven't been following along, what is going on? Go back to last week. Those that have seen it, great. Those that haven't, mate, fight night. Benny, 1-0.
1-0, baby. Let's go.
1-0, let's go. We come over here, we flew across. Benny trained like crazy, as everyone knows, and he got the chocolates. He got it done. First round, dicey. Rounds 2 and 3, let's go! But amazing, he was seeing them like beach balls. So it was awesome. So anyone that hasn't seen that, make sure you circle back and have a look. But super pumped, first episode for the year, Benny.
Yes, mate. Yes, mate. $1.36 PK. If they scrub straight to $1.36 on the stream, they'll get straight.
A minute
into
36, you'll see the gold. Goes for about 10 minutes. But if you'd like to watch the whole night, I tell you what, the crew, shout out to all the crew behind the scenes, Crispy Media. It was better than I was expecting, let's just say that.
Oh, we appreciate that. That's lovely.
And I can be a bit harsh.
And before we get into this pod, I don't want to hijack it, but I'm just going to have to hijack it for a second here, guys, because today we've got not only the guys behind the stream and social media and all the craziness over here and putting together the fight night, but we've got the matchmaker. And just before the stream started, it's thrown me. He said on the stream, I've seen that he said on the stream, Andrew said on the stream, it was 220 to 180?
Could have got 220.
You could have got 220.
We could have paid for our trip, Matty. You know what I mean? If we had launched into that.
I'm not going to lie. When I saw that on the stream, I thought, well, that's good for the content. Thanks for doing that, Andrew. And then you looked at me strange and was like, you thought I was going to lose, dude.
Well, look, I didn't. Okay, if you're taking the odds, just based off the odds, then you could assume that, yes, okay, I thought you were going to lose. I thought you were going to get the job done. But based on the numbers from the viewers watching at home, I think it would have been I think the TAB, the bookies in Vegas, they would have given you 220.
Yeah, and Andrew thought the markets were wrong. They got it wrong. They got it wrong, and it was free money in the end.
Yeah, absolutely.
Know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's a shame we didn't have one of the old Muay Thai stadium geezers walking around like taking those bets because they're like red corner, blue corner.
Mate, you would have ended his career. We would have ended him.
We were taken into the cleaners. But mate, Andrew, thank you. Yeah, before we get into it, man, we're excited to have you on because you've got a crazy story yourself, and that's what we do. We share extraordinary stories, man. But from bottom of my heart, man, thank you because I got to see firsthand how you guys work, and we didn't know what we were coming into. I just thought I was connected with Vlad, was going to the fight, but you guys made it bigger than Ben-Hur out here, and it grew legs and the execution of the night, but the stream, like. You know, Little Fish is getting a lot of the credit, but Crispy Media and your guys, that's where the magic was. So, thank you, dude.
Yeah, and it was a pleasure to call with you, mate. And you actually brought some professionalism and some knowledge to the call. So, really love your work.
I really appreciate the kind words, guys. But it was definitely a team effort. we've only done an Apollo live stream at one of the fights, and we've had 10 fights over the past year. So, in low season, it's every 6 weeks, but in high season, it's a fast turnaround. We've got our next fight night in pretty much 3.5 weeks from today. So, yeah, from a live streaming standpoint, it was super clutch to have you guys and bring your team and then to work in collaboration with Little Fish. For us, it was, a game changer.
Awesome. Mate, now let's talk about yourself. You're an Aussie.
That I am.
Born and bred, and you've come over here and you're making a bloody good go of things, and I feel like the more people you speak to, some come across and can create something. A lot of people come and go, but you seem to nearly be rusted on here at the moment and starting a company, doing some amazing things. But can we take it back to where it started for you, and how did you end up in Thailand, Phuket?
Yeah, for sure. We, I guess, we can take it. We can take it pretty far back.
Let's take it right back.
Take
mate.
it
You know what I mean?
Take it right back, mate. We'll get stuck into it. Get into the trenches. Yeah. So originally born and raised in Brisbane, Queensland, with my mum in Spring Hill, little central suburb there. So I never, formally met my biological father. So she sort of took the onus upon herself to raise me. And she had a pretty good crack at that for the first couple of years. However, she's got pretty severe bipolar. So one day she had an episode, and I was, I think some things went down. Anyway, I was taken into custody by the state government. Formally became a ward of the state, and then unlike my half brother, who was adopted out of the family, sort of 10 years before me, I was, thank God, I was adopted by my grandparents. So that's mum's parents, right? And so then they took me on board, which in reality is a huge, colossal burden, when you think about things. They'd already raised 5 kids. Dad worked pretty much, 6-7 days a week. He was Surveyor General of Queensland. And so when I say dad, I mean grandpa, for those at home. It gets a bit confusing. And, so he was very absent, through the 5 kids' upbringing, because he was just forever working. She was a stay-at-home mum, did the whole bit. So then, to get to 55 and then go, oh, you know what, we'll onboard another one. You want to talk about sacrifice. Yeah. That's for me, that's just the ultimate sacrifice, right? You're meant to be, leaning into your retirement, looking forward to taking it, maybe hanging out with some grandkids every now and then, but not having one in the house. Not starting from scratch again.
Being the sole guardian, being the...
Yeah, exactly. So, so I can't imagine how trying that was.
Probably, their daughter as well is obviously not well.
Yeah, that was... Yeah.
Does that make sense as well? So they're dealing with that as well as
for
taking
sure.
you in. And
and that definitely caused some pretty serious, I guess, complications, if you will, along the way. Mum, so I'll say, I won't say her name, but mum, was in and out of hospital for, sometimes up to 9-10 months, psych wards here and there, blah, 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 the whole 9 yards. She'd run off to Victoria and disappear, and it was, that sort of continued until I was 12, 14 years old. And then in 98, so when I was sort of 8, 9, 10 years old, then mum, aka grandma, started to develop dementia. And that was all. And then that was another spanner in the works, if you will. And so then, with the dementia, then my old man lost his job. So then he became her full-time carer, pretty much, right? And I was an absolute handful. I was not straight-laced. I was not getting A's. For whatever reason, we could delve into it. But for the sake of the podcast, I'm not going to right now. I'll just gloss over this. But essentially, I was getting into a lot of trouble. Counsellors and child psychiatrists, and this is her son, so de facto, there's a lot of
assumptions being made.
Yeah, a lot of assumptions and all that sort of stuff. So
a lot of prejudgment, and then you're probably not helping it with some of your actions and stuff. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah.
So there's all these people out there pointing their finger, going, "His mum's like this, he's bad too." You know what I mean?
Got diagnosed with ADD at 6.
Yeah, and you're probably not helping it because you've got everyone pointing at you, so you're reacting, and it all sort of snowballs.
So everything you said is 100% true. And then I get to I'm 10 years old, gets shipped off to boarding school, which was in Brisbane. It was just down the road, just to give mum and dad a bit of breathing space. And then, so I'm in boarding school, all boys, First off BBC, Brisbane Boys College. I was there for 5 years. Then got asked to leave. Went to Morris Brothers boarding school in Ashgrove, so just down the road. Everything's like within 10-minute drive of each other. And then finished high school there. The whole time, my biological mum, her situation was, I guess, like slowly getting better as she got older. So she started to mature a bit and sort of less episodes and less, manic attacks and freakouts and whatever. So then, finished school. Mum and dad, they're like, oh, you got to go to university. It's the only route, right? Like if you're not a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant, you're nothing. So I was like, okay, sweet, let's do that. 110% should not have done that. That was not the route at the time. I needed to go to military school or be a carpenter or something, that would have led to less partying and stuffing around. So anyway, whatever, do that. I'm in university. I turned 19, and then I had some mates from school. One was from Cape Town, so from Johannesburg. And we're like, let's do an Africa trip, right? And I was like, 100%. Africa trip, let's go. 2 months on the road. We'll fly into Joburg. The family's going to give us a car. We'll be off. It'll be on like Donkey Kong. So then we get over there, and we're having a sick time, and we're going to here, and we're seeing the animals, and bloody, golf tournaments and casinos, getting the real Rolls Royce treatment of South Africa. Like, it was epic. And obviously, drinking a lot, partying a lot, everything that goes in with that. Anyway, we get to Cape Town, and one morning, we're 6 weeks in, and, we had a big night. Not too big, but the night before was very big. We walked into some bar, they had 30 cocktails, and they worked out to be like $5 each. So we just do the Noah's Ark, and we sat down, and we're like, give me 2 of every kind. And we just sent it for like 6 hours.
I like that.
Yeah. I was like, give us the Noah's Ark, mate. There's 3 of us. We're 60 cocktails. We back this. We're pulling people in off the street. We're having a red hot go. All sorts of debauchery went into that. Anyway, then I wake up 2 mornings later, and I'm in a bloody Cape Town hostel, and I wake up and I've got this excruciating pain in my abdomen, and I'd had a little bit of pain in the lead up. And I was like, it's all right, just walk it off, sort of thing. And so I tried to walk it off, but I'm vomiting, I'm pissing every 5 minutes. I've had diarrhea. I'm sweating bullets. Like, it was just ridiculous. I tell the boys, I'm like, you got to get me some food. Like, I couldn't hold anything down. Anyway, after like 3 hours of this, I'm just going, we've got to go to hospital. Like, this is outrageous. And in Africa, there's 2 hospitals, right? There's your public and your private. If you go to your public, you're up shit creek without a paddle. It's BYO sheets and pillows and toiletries and everything. Like, you're not going to get seen. And so the lads were having a laugh, and they were like, we'll take you to the public. And I was like, we should probably go to the private. Anyway, we pull up to this hospital, and we get there. It was I think it was the Christian Bernard Hospital. Turns out, arguably the best hospital in Africa, not just South Africa. Like, this place was like state of the art. And we get there, they checked me over, they took ages to let me in. I couldn't sit still, I'm all over the place. And then we get in, the nurse is like, what's wrong with you? And I was like, we had a couple of drinks. And they're like, you've probably got alcohol poisoning. I looked down and I was like, no, I don't get alcohol poisoning. That's like,
I'm an Aussie.
I've tried that.
Yeah.
And I don't.
That's an old wives' tale. That's a crock of shit, all right? I'm fine. Anyway, so then, it's a Sunday, so there's no one there in terms of like staff. So there's one attending GP, he's cruising around. He finally comes and sees me. And he's like, what's wrong with you, bloke, blah, blah, blah. He's in a South African accent. And he starts pressing on my abdomen. And he's like, are you pushing your stomach out? And I look at him, I'm like, no, what do you mean? And he's like, that's very strange. So we'll send you for a scan. Anyway, whatever. I go down for a scan, and the nurses hated me by this stage because I was constantly going to the toilet. I couldn't sit still. I vomited on myself. They just thought, this kid's a piss wreck. Like, he's an absolute disgrace. My mates are there taking videos, like laughing at me.
Just funny.
They think it's hilarious. And whatever, go down for the scan, come back up, and I'm sitting there, and I'll never forget this to the day I die. I'm lying there in some type of way, and I look over, and the nurse from the radiology clinic comes up, and she opens the lift door open. She runs into the emergency, and she calls the doctor over, and the doctor takes the scan. And he puts the scan on the screen, and in a split second, he just does the biggest double take you've ever seen in your life. And he just turns, and in Afrikaans, just starts barking orders, just going off kilter. All of a sudden, my mates get rushed out of my little area. All the blinds get drawn, and 4 nurses just rush me and just start injecting me with everything. And I'm looking at him, I'm like, what are you... I'm like, are you taking the piss? What are you doing? And they've gone, oh, you've got pancreatitis. And at 19, I didn't know what that was.
I still don't. So
And so we'll get to that. And so then,
okay?
so then they've gone.
Got no idea.
And so in my mind, all I'm hearing, because they've hit me with morphine and all the painkillers. So in my mind, all I was hearing was about appendicitis. And I just said, oh,
Yeah, that's fair.
walk in the park, just cut her out. She'll be right. And so I kept telling them, like, cut it out, da-da-da. And it wasn't like for a couple of hours, you know, I kind of realized, I was like, oh, they were like, you know, we can't cut this out. Like it's not like that. So in my mind, I'm like, oh, okay, transplant, you know, whatever the next step is, yeah. And I'll never forget, we're upstairs, so they get me out of the emergency ASAP, put me straight into ICU, and I'm lying there, and you know, things have reached a critical mass by this stage, right? And they very quickly realised that I'm dying. And so I'm lying there, and I've got it at my side, and I've got IV. By this stage, I've got a feeding tube up my nose, catheter. Oh, sorry. Feeding tube up my nose, catheter, 2 IVs, and they're trying to put an IV in my neck for whatever reason. They just needed to get more fluid into me. And I'll never forget, I'm lying there, and there was like an intern, this African girl, and they're talking in English and Afrikaans, and there's 2 doctors, whatever, my surgeon and my soon-to-be general physician, and he's trying to put this IV in, and he's tapping away and whatever else, and he puts the IV in, and he's missed and hit an artery, and so then blood's just gone all down the side of my body, and I'm a vegetable by this stage, right? I'm full slug mode, and so I can feel it, but all I could see was this chick's eyes, and the girl's eyes just went like dinner plates, and she slowly just backed away from me, and I'm just lying there going, oh great, like what's next, sort of thing. Anyway, long story short, you know, my pancreas had exploded, and all the enzymes. So your pancreas essentially controls your insulin, and it also produces all the enzymes that, you know, we need to break down food and alcohol. And so the enzymes had escaped and were attacking my internal organs, and so my left lung collapsed because the enzymes attacked my lung. And so then, you know, they had to put me on, you know, whatever breathing mask and all that jazz. And the doctors are trying to like console me, and they're like, oh, you know, don't worry, mate. Like you've got a. He goes, you're like, you should be right. You've got like a 70-30 chance, right?
That was a better chance. He's giving you a better chance than you gave me.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, like 70-30 sounds pretty promising, right? And he's like, but you're going to be here minimum 3 months. It's going to be a bit of a slog.
Were they asking for money? Because you were in a different country.
No. So that in that respect, they were very, they were
Just worried about your health.
Pretty much. They had a duty of care. I was a foreigner. They don't want an Aussie 19-year-old to die on African soil. There's, you know, I'm sure, obviously politics and whatever else that goes into that. So money wasn't brought up. 2 weeks later, I'm lying in ICU. I've been on life support for 10 days, and then my mate comes in from SA. He'd stayed with me, whatever, and he comes in and he's you couldn't come near me. I was the 6th person in the hospital, and you had to be fully scrubbed up. I was in an isolation chamber, whatever, and he comes in, he sits down, and at the time we didn't have a lot of money, right? Because, you know, mum had dementia and biological mum's got this and all whatever else. So my old man's been out of work for like 8 years. And so then my mate comes in and he goes, you know, because obviously by this stage, we're 2 weeks in, there's been a lot of comms between here and there, here in Africa and Australia. My auntie flew in from London, blah, blah, blah. And he comes in and he holds my hand and he goes, oh, just look, we've spoken to the insurance company and they're not going to cover you. And the bill was already like 30 grand. And I've just gone, oh yeah, and because the attending physician in emergency wrote alcohol induced, which null and void the contract instantly, my travel insurance contract. So then I just roll over, and I think I just remember like quietly crying to myself, just thinking to myself,
I couldn't rewrite it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
This happens. This happens all the time.
And you're laid up in bed, man.
Yeah. So at that point, I think I've, you know, reached a pretty new low. You know, it's like, okay, like this situation's just getting.
Sounded like you were pretty low to start with.
Yeah. We found some new spots. Anyway, whatever. Like moving forward, 4 weeks later, I walk out of hospital, right as rain. They said it was a miracle. On like the second last day I was there, my general physician walks in, and he goes, I'll never forget. He goes, oh mate, you were pretty bloody close, huh? In his South African accent. I was like, oh, what do you mean? He's like, oh, we had you 60-40 death to life. the first
60.
40 death to life. And I looked at him and I went,
The
Yeah,
death
yeah,
60.
yeah.
and I looked at him and I said, but you said 70-30. And he looks at me and goes, wait, who told you that? And I was like, such and such. And he goes, oh, yeah. And then he just walked out of the room and left. And my uncle was sitting there and caught the whole thing. And I was like, okay, sweet.
What does that do to someone, Andrew? At 19 years old, you've been out clowning around, just thinking that you're invincible and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What does that do to you, man?
Yeah, man. When so whatever, we got on the plane, got back to Oz, spent like 4 months trying to get recovering and getting over it because I'd lost 12 kilos in 4 weeks and I was just a shell of a human being. And then I guess I'm pretty lucky in a way because I'm pretty social. Like I'm an outgoing guy. You know, I love a good yarn. I love a bit of banter, getting around the lads. So in the beginning, it was tough. You start not getting invited to things. You know, you can't drink. You lose a certain element of camaraderie because, like, as we all know, you know, what do you do on a Friday afternoon after work?
Australia, yeah.
In Australia, you're going to the pub. We're doing this. We're doing that. So, you know, I did notice that sort of thing over the first like year or two. And it wasn't, you know, malicious or anything. It's just like, oh, you know, Davies doesn't drink. Why would we invite him to this event, say, right? So socially there was an impact. But then my gastroenterologist back in Australia, I pretty much said to him, hey, mate, like, listen, this is pretty serious, right? Like, I can't drink. And I was going out 5 nights a week. So I was, you know, I'm at uni, I'm going out all the time. Like, what do we do? And so I was frank with him. I sat him down and I said, well, you know, what can I do? And he goes, well, what do you want to do? And so I rattled off a list of, you know, 7 different things. And he was like, yep, no. And I was like, okay, well, it's good to know, right? A bit of context, just in case, doc. And he's like, you know, I can't green light these sort of things, these activities, but, you know, from a medical standpoint, just so you know. And so we had a very frank conversation that he was 65 years old. He'd been in the medical field for his whole life. And so, yeah, took it from there. And then, so that was 19. All of a sudden, I'm back. I'm 20. I'm starting to feel better. You know, obviously lost about a year of uni. That was a huge speed bump. And then we get to 2012. And, you know, and by this stage, you know, mum, aka grandma, with the dementia, she's, you know, she's had a stroke. She's in high care. And I think probably one of the most impactful, I guess, things that's ever happened in my life was sort of watching her fade into nothing while my old man essentially just fully committed his entire life to serving her in her later stages. And when I say later stages, that lasted for her later stages was like 5 or 6 years. It wasn't like 6 months.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so that decline was slow and
fucking brutal.
And brutal, right? And so, you know, as a teenager, you know, I just remember feeling just helpless because he just...
So you're only, what, 20, 21 at this stage, and you've lived the life of 10, dude.
Yeah.
You've been in the system,
you know, caseworkers and, you know, whatever else.
You're only 20 years old, man, so you're just a kid becoming an adult, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I definitely wasn't like a mature 19-year-old. Do you get me?
Didn't sound.
Yeah, nah. You wouldn't read about it, mate. What are you talking about? No, so yeah. Anyway, so we get to 2012. You know, she's on the way out. She passes away September 2012, just from like a cold or a flu. And my old man like pretty much refused to leave. Never took holidays. And would you believe it? The one weekend he went to Sydney for some him time, she passes away. So that was brutal. The emotions that I went through in that time were pretty, I don't know, I guess new to me, if you will. And so whatever, we go through that, we have the funeral, you know, Dad gets up, he says his bit, he absolutely nails it. You know, I gave a eulogy, all that jazz. And then, you couldn't script it. So when he's up there giving his eulogy, he's riddled with cancer. No one knew. Head to toe, like stage 4, all over his body.
No, he didn't know either?
No, none of us knew. So then a month and a half later, I get to October, and he starts complaining about a sore back. And I'm like, oh, pick it up, you weak bastard. Come on, mate. You ride your bike every day, you're fine. And, you know, and just a bit of perspective, they're around their age bracket was like 72 to 76.
Yep.
So that's just a bit of context. Anyway, whatever. He's complaining. I'm an hour. I tell him to, have a tablespoon of concrete and harden up. I'm like, you stop being a soft. No, I almost said the C word there. Stop being soft. And whatever. He goes to hospital. They check everything. I'm like, I'm giving him shit. I'm like, you're just being a wuss. Anyway, finally they're like, I couldn't figure out what's wrong with him, and they go, oh, we'll give you a PET scan, and the PET scan's whole body. Anyway, they do the PET scan. Lo and behold, literally everywhere. I won't go into all the granular details as to how all of that unfolded, but long story short, 6 weeks later he's dead. So, palliative care, where the Wesley family flies in from all over because his first kids, aunties and uncles, there in Florida, London, wherever. And so then we go through all that, and then all of a sudden, everyone flies away. I'm in Brisbane, with my biological mum, and so he was her primary carer. So then we've got this very interesting dynamic where, she's my biological mother, but I'm now her primary carer, in a lot of ways.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right, so.
Well, in every way, but it sounds.
Yeah, and then to make matters worse, Grandma had a sister, great aunt, also dementia, in a home down in Sydney. So as all this goes down, the aunt's like, I want to be closer to Andrew. So then she comes to Brisbane. So then all of a sudden, I've gone from being this super immature, partying all the time, giving zero fucks about pretty much anything, to having Helen and Elaine just fully onboarded. How did I deal with that? Probably not well. In hindsight, I just shouldered it and didn't speak about it and just did what Dad would do and just got on with things. But I definitely made my decision making for the next couple of years was definitely seeking the road, seeking the path of least resistance. Would you say? And so so then, whatever, got on with that, did all that. And then we get to 2016, 2017. I discovered cycling. I opened a coffee shop. I started a cycling club. I started an amateur cycling team, get a bunch of sponsors. We start doing that, start riding, 400K a week. That was very therapeutic. My old man used to ride every day. So we did like a memorial ride on the, blah, 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 all that sort of jazz. Every year we would do that. And then did that for 3 or 4 years. Through my work at the coffee shop, started a social media agency. And then started doing all the content for my coffee roaster, got a couple of other clients, never really expanded, kept things very small. And then, started getting into my late 20s, and it was kind of like a Davies family rite of passage to leave the nest and go and do something. Everyone had gone to Hong Kong, New York, London, everyone had done something, right? And for whatever reason, I would just make excuses it's not time. I've got to do this. I got to take care of Helen. I got the cycling club.
I haven't got enough money, or
exactly.
I need to save more. Or
I'd come up with every excuse under the sun, and then as time sort of just disappeared, and then it was just we got to go. And also, I was making some less than ideal decisions, and I just knew that one day that they could potentially catch up with me. So, I was like, okay, well, look, we got to do something here, otherwise, you're just going to end up, and there's nothing wrong with, ending up in a suburb in the suburbs in Brisbane and doing this and whatever, and going to James Street every Friday afternoon and seeing the boys and blah, blah, blah. The lads started having kids and getting married, and I knew I didn't really want that. So, whatever, made a plan. I'm moving to New York. It's happening. Had the misso, broke it off with her. I'm going. She was distraught. Some girlfriends of mine convinced me to ask her to come with me. I asked her. I was like, listen, this can be a reality if you want. I'd always planned it to be a solo venture. She's like, yep, sweet. All right, I'll give you 18 months to get your money together. Anyway, we get a year down the road, and she gets cold feet. And whatever, I won't go into that. She self-sabotaged the relationship. I had to break it off with her. I'm like, sweet, going solo, all good. She wasn't ready, fine. 2 months later, COVID happens. Australia gets locked down. We get stuck there. New York's off the cards. I was training for an Ironman. That got cancelled. Cairns off. So
shout out Trenner. He would have done the Cairns Ironman.
Shout out. And then so all of a sudden I'm stuck in Brisbane, pulling my hair out, and then the federal government turns around and goes, "You can't leave." I don't know if you remember this. And so
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. So that really, that really, grinded my gears. I was like, what do you mean I can't leave? I can understand not coming in, but you're going to tell me I can't leave? So I had a real bone to pick with that situation. Anyway, whatever, fast forward 9 months, and I start speaking to a mate in Berlin, and he's like, "Look, I'm going to move to Portugal and open a bar. Do you want to come with me?" And I went, "Mate, absolutely." So then, whatever, sell everything, shut the business down, close the cycling team, start hatching this plan, had to submit documentation to the federal government 3 times till I got accepted to leave. So the first 2 times they said no, which I thought was comical / ridiculous. Outrageous. Yeah, classic Australian nanny state stuff. And then, so then anyway, fine, whatever, get the green light, sell everything, pack my bags, go to Lisbon. Get to Lisbon, and then we get to Lisbon, and I was living a pretty, let's say, extravagant lifestyle in Australia. And then I was like, okay, this is my fresh start type thing, yeah? So then I get to Lisbon, and it was just more extravagant. It was like Australia, but on steroids. It was just next level. And so, oh God, we don't have enough time, but yeah, let's just say things were crazy in Australia before I left. They were just ridiculous in more ways than one. Maybe I'll tell you another time. But, and so then whatever, I get to Lisbon and I'm just shattered. I had to say goodbye to my biological mum in my mind, I thought it was the last time. I thought I was never going to see her
You
again.
had to go and live your life, right?
Yeah. So I had to say goodbye to her. I was in this very toxic relationship, blah blah blah. So I remember getting on the plane off a 2-day bender, just cooked, and I just got business class, had a sleeping pill, and woke up in Lisbon in this completely new reality. But my brain was just scrambled eggs, mate. I was just all over the shop. So whatever, I get there, I'm trying to acclimatise, had a cool group of friends, and then we get 4 weeks in, and we're at an after party, and I have, and someone's like, "Oh, you've got these mushroom truffles," and I'm sure you can imagine where this is about to go. And so then I'm like, "Yeah, I'm 4 sheets to the wind. I'm pretty how you going?" And I'm like, I'm trying to fit in, right? I'm like, "Yeah, sweet, all good." So anyway, give me this. I'll have a mushroom truffle. I'll have a tiny bit, and mind you, because of mum's bipolar and whatever else. Also, fun fact, my biological dad has acid-induced schizophrenia. Never met him, and he's apparently a bit of a vegetable. And so, whatever, have the mushroom truffle, and then all of a sudden, half an hour in, I just lose my mind. Yeah. Legit, full-blown paranoia, anxiety. Thought everyone in the room was out to get me. Just off the deep end. And
knowing that your mum and your biological mum and dad start messing with your mind as well, right?
Mate, literally everything. And so then I kind of just fell into this. I self-diagnosed as HPPD, hallucinogenic persisting perception disorder, which is kind of otherwise known as flashbacks. And so for the next month, I was just riddled with paranoia and anxiety. And I literally couldn't see certain people without taking Valium or some sort of something to take the edge off. My social anxiety was just through the roof. So I just I became the complete polar opposite of what I actually like.
I was about to say, yeah, opposite to the social guy that you were.
The literal opposite. And then one day at 5 a.m, had this weird, very intense flashback. All those negative feelings subsided, but then the lingering effects of that lasted for another 9 months. And so then all of a sudden, this new start in Portugal was just completely tainted by this experience. And so mind you, while this is all happening, I'm trying to open a bar, I'm trying to make friends, I'm trying to socialize, we open a gym. I'm working for a Web3 studio, so we're just it was a very heavy crypto crowd. It's still COVID, so we're still sort of semi-locked down, but we're going to these illegal parties and whatever else. It was a crazy time in Lisbon during COVID, and anyway, it was just it was crazy. My business partner got a girl pregnant after knowing her for a month. That turned into an absolute nightmare. All of a sudden, my business partner's visa gets rejected. So and
It's all over.
Exactly, and I got my visa through his company structure
Right.
in Portugal. So he went there, laid the foundation, did all the work, bought a house, spent this, tried to get the golden visa, and I'm glossing over this, right? Like I could
absolutely, yeah.
if you told me we had more time, I'd get into the weeds, but like I'm glossing over this big time, and so essentially, I buy an apartment. I had to get a huge loan because the market crashed. I was essentially like writing everything off Kryptons. It was a disaster. Anyway, we get like a year and a half into this, and I've just gone, righto. Well, this has been an absolute dumpster fire, and my business partner goes, F this. I'm out of here. So he sells his house. I sell my apartment. The boxing gym that I was boxing at after I closed the cycling team back in Brisbane. Shout out Fortitude Boxing. Coach Connor Wallace, the boys there. They were putting a fight night on, pretty much exactly what you just did, Benny. They were putting a fight night on back in Oz. The gym that we'd opened was half F45, half boxing. So I'd been boxing there. This tiny hole in the wall. So met some got connected with some Portuguese homies. They were training out of this, prehistoric gym, like barely the size of this balcony. Went and trained with them, and then I just signed up for this white collar boxing fight back in Oz and said, sweet, I'll get me out of here. I'm going to go and train for this. Anyway, 6 weeks out, I'm sparring, break my hand, hit this Portuguese guy that looked like Yoel Romero, punched him on the head, an awkward angle.
Soldier of God.
Yeah, the soldier of God. Hand just explodes, and I've gone, okay, sweet. Like I left it for 2 weeks to see how it would go. Called my coach. I was like, listen, mate, I think I'm no good. And he's like, oh, look, we've matched you. Like, you got to do it. It's charity. And I'd already sold 2 tables, so I'd already raised like $8,000, and just G'd it up to no end. Anyway, whenever you get back to Oz, do the fight, do it with the broken hand, got it strapped. That went the way that it did. Somehow got the win. Then I'm in Brisbane for a month. Yeah, in Brisbane for a month, and then I've gone. And then that's wholesome. That brings a bit of wholesomeness to the podcast. And then I've gone. All right, I'm getting out of here. I'm going to Thailand. And so my business partner from Berlin, he's also Aussie. We're like, we'll go to Thailand. We'll have a bit of downtime. And then he's like, yep, sweet. I come over here. Jump back into that toxic relationship that I was entertaining before I went to Portugal for a month in Oz. That was terrible. I'm not going to get into that. It was just very toxic. Whatever. Leave Oz, do all that, come to Thailand, and I was just shattered. I was just cooked. And so a big thing that I didn't mention during this traumatic post mushroom trip experience, it essentially made me deal with the death of my parents because I never dealt with it, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Can't it all come back with the flashbacks? Yeah.
Oh, big time. So all of the insecurities, all the abandonment issues, all the whatever, self-esteem from being a kid, ADHD, whatever, literally everything.
You had to work through it all.
Bang, in Portugal. And so, after a year and a half of that, nearly 2 years, and then I got to Thailand, it was just, I was just, I just disconnected from everyone. Was staying at a place just down the road and just started training twice a day. Didn't speak to anyone.
But what happened next, because I kind of know a little bit of the story from here, what happened next, Andrew, to me, I feel like is a little bit of fate, man. You've been dragged through the mud. You've been knocked down 1,000,000 times. It's about time sort of your luck turned a little bit, or, a little bit of fate worked in your favour. Can you tell us the story of, we're in Thailand now, and obviously we were joking around at the start, you're the matchmaker at Apollo. Apollo is one of the biggest and most elite and newest gyms over here in Thailand, which is the national sport and, the number one for tourism and stuff. And you're in the thick of it now, man. Like, that's a wild, wild story that we just glazed over. And that's me and Pete. That's not the Andrew that we met. We're looking at an Andrew that I said before. A lot of people say to me, "Far out, Benny, man, you do a lot, and it's crazy how much you can do." And it's not very often I sit there and look at someone and think, "How does he do it?" You know what I mean? And I've had a front row seat since day one when we met a couple of months ago. And man, you're on top of the world at the moment, right? You're quite literally living the dream. So you've been dragged through the mud. You've been shook upside down. You've landed in Thailand. You're devastated. You're still not happy. What happens next, man? Tell us the story of fate that sort of takes you to where you are now, on the top of this rooftop, announcing on the podcast with Pete as announcer, putting the fights together, head of content, your own business, Crispy Media. You've got an incredible team, man. Some of the most, some of the best videographers and editors I've seen. You know what I mean? How does that happen?
Yeah, for sure. It's I don't know. It's always a little bit jarring to hear you say that. Like you've been heaping myself and the team and us with praise, especially in the past week, just because everything's been so crazy. And I
got a front row seat, dude.
Yeah,
I literally had a front row seat. You know what I mean? I was communicating with you. Who am I fighting? We're going to press conferences. You're cutting up reels. There was so much. That's not even giving it justice. You know what I mean? You're getting tables. Do you know what I mean? For the event, yeah, man, you quite literally, like, that event isn't what it is without you. And shout out the boys. We've got Hash and
Pavel. Shout out Hash and Pavel.
Yeah, like quite literally, man. You can have boxing. For me, you can have boxing events anywhere, man. You could have it in a tin shed. You could have it in the sand out here, like they quite literally did. But you and your team, what you were able to pull off or spearhead, man. We had a couple of cameras and we lent Pete for the night, you know what I mean? But you guys had done it before. You put the night together, man. You made it bigger than Ben Hurt. But man, let's get back to you got to take the credit too, because it actually happened and it's mind blowing what you guys have been able to achieve, right? You've set your business up and it hasn't been that long. So you've gone on this S curve since you touched down in Thailand. What, 14 months, 16 months ago?
Yeah, it was 2 years last week.
Okay, so 2 years last week,
Yep.
You've gone on this S curve where your life's gone from, it sounded like pretty depressing, and a lot of every corner you turn, you feel like you get knocked down and probably feeling a bit like a victim in life. But what happened, man? What changed, and what was the fate that got you here?
Yeah, Firstly, thanks, mate, for obviously the kind words and getting around the lads, and obviously getting around to Polo and coming out here and putting the hard work in for 2 months. To it's like it takes two to tango. You know what I mean? Without you lads, we wouldn't be here. And then you picked a Polo, and so this is what fate would have it, mate.
It's a magical place, man, and it's a magical place because of the people, dude. It's not the walls, it's not the bags hanging, it's the people that are there, and that's you guys, and it's Vlad and it's his team. That's what makes a gym. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, I get you.
100%.
So then, so got here, went into just full monk mode, and I guess I've just never had.
Good place to go into monk mode.
Great place to go into monk mode. Yeah, for anyone listening at home, if you ever think you need monk mode, which is my definition for that is just sort of silent time, where you can just sort of reflect and sort of be by yourself. Because Thailand, especially Phuket, is juxtaposed by the crazy nightlife and Patong and, just the madness that ensues over there. And then there's Fight Island, right? Where you can come and you can train twice a day. You get your meal prep done. You go to the gym. You come home. You sleep. You train again in the evening. You go to bed at 8:30. You fall asleep at 9:30. You're up at 5, 6 the next day. You go for a run, and that's all you do, right? And that's, for me, that's the biggest, I guess, allure of Phuket and of Fight Street, and sort of coming here. And I'd only heard things. I'd never been to Thailand, so this was my first time, right? I just landed, fell in love with the place, went into monk mode, went over to Kazakhstan to watch the Chess World Cup and play chess, and then went to Turkey to see some mates. And so we're now 3 months in, and I get to Turkey and I've gone, righto, well, I need to make a hard call here. I either go back to the dumpster fire that was Portugal, and I was rapidly running out of money. Like I went over to Portugal in a pretty good spot. I left Portugal damn near destitute. And so then I just made the hard call and just went with my gut and went, all right, I'm going back to Phuket, stuff it. So then came back here, and that would have been April, May. And before I left, I did a couple of sessions with Joel Camilleri. Shout out Joel Camilleri at the Zoo Fight Club.
Aussie legend.
Yeah, Aussie.
And he's running Tim Zoo or the Zoo Gym up in Sydney. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. He's the manager at Zoo Gym. You should get him on the pod.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get him on.
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure,
You got to get Joel on the pod.
We've connected socially, like on social media and that, but absolutely.
Yeah, so I bumped into him here at T&Y Gym down the road. Did a couple of sessions with him. He was going back to Oz, and then just before I left, I saw him training with some, to be honest, kind of scary looking Russian bloke.
Russian dude.
And I couldn't find good boxing coaching for the life of me, right? So I messaged Joel, like, who's this bloke? He's like, oh, it's this bloke Vlad down in Rawai. You got to go and see him. I'm like, right, give me his details. I DM him. He obviously used Google Translator because apparently, I didn't know at the time, but when I first messaged him, his English was not like borderline non-existent, right? Like he didn't speak much English. And I've gone, oh yeah, Russian boxing coach, bit of a hard nut, sounds great. So I came back, saw him pretty much the first week I got back, and I was staying up here, Rawai, about a 15, 20-minute drive on a scooter. And so then I just started going down to Rawai to train with Vlad, just doing boxing PTs 3 days a week.
And for context, for everyone playing along, and obviously watch the fight, and if you haven't, $1.36 last week's stream, Vlad was my coach. So Vlad's the founder of Apollo. He's got five gyms in Sumatra
so 4 in Samara back home,
sorry.
and then he's got 2 here.
So he's got 4 in Samara in Russia, and then he came over, and keep going, man, because you met him in the gym in Rawai.
Yep. And so then, I guess like during this time, and also as a way to stay out of trouble on the weekends, on Friday, Saturday night, I would just go to the Muay Thai stadiums, Rawai, Sinbi, Bangla, Patong, and I would just say to the stadium, hey, look, you let me shoot some photos. I did a fair bit of content stuff back in Australia and in Portugal. I said, look, let me shoot a fight. I give them the shots. They like the shots, and I said, look, you don't need to pay me. Just let me in for free, and I'll just donate the shots to the stadium. And so obviously the Thais love that, right? So they were like, okay, yep, sweet. And then I literally did that for free for 3 months, pretty much every weekend religiously. And it was a good networking tool.
Gangster, man. That's how you do it.
And it was good networking. I got to meet the fighters. I got to get more familiar with the landscape, blah blah blah. But also kept me out of trouble. And it was just an enjoyable thing to do. I enjoy the fights, whatever. And so I kept doing that when I came back. Met a girl at one of the fights. And she saw my work and just said to me, why aren't you getting paid for this? And I just went, oh, well, I'm happy to help out. And so then she went and spoke to the stadiums and said, you need to pay this. Like, she's a Thai Chinese girl, was at the time soon to be girlfriend. And anyway, she went into bat for me and essentially got me my first proper gig after just, essentially volunteering for
just because it's not cheap to get in if you go in there every weekend as well.
Exactly.
It's not free to get in either.
Yeah, so after volunteering for 3 or 4 months, they put me on a very modest Thai-esque payment package, which whatever, I was fine. It was better than a kick in the teeth, better than a ham sandwich. I was like, it was rock and roll, and then that eventually led to more work, and then I started training with Vlad, and Vlad and I got along, and I thought he was,
he's a good dude.
I thought he was a good dude. I was like, all right, sweet, mate. Like, it is what it is. And then he goes, listen, brother, I have project in Geelong. And then I'm like, okay, yeah, what about it? And he's like, brother, listen, come.
Example,
we go. And I was like, okay, sweet, we go. So then we come up to Geelong, and he pulls up to Tiger, and I'm like, what are we doing here? And then he walks next door, and there's this big old plot, and he goes, brother, Apollo. And I looked at him, I was like, all right, Apollo, baby, that's a big plot. And he looked at me, he's like, yeah.
What did it have? Did it have just that house that's in the middle where the
no, all that accommodation, the hotel, that existed.
Okay.
So
we kind of bought the accommodation.
Yeah. So you got the land and the accommodation. I don't know the ins and outs of how all that went down, but that's what happened, right? So then he's got that. He's building. I'm like, yeah, are you sure you want to build next to Tiger? That smells a little bit off. And he's like, no problem, brother.
Be fine, brother.
Brother.
Problem.
Listen, brother. Let's go. And I'm like, okay, sweet, let's go. So then, whatever. Fast forward to October, we have a bit of a sit down. He hits me up. Do you know anyone that can help with the website? I'm like, yeah, I probably know someone. So then I started helping with a website. I started getting more involved. And he sits me down. He's like, listen, I want you to be involved with this. And I straight up said to him, mate, you can't afford it. Because I understand what this is going to take. Like, I understand the gravity of this job. And I said to him straight, I was like, man, it's not worth my time. Yeah. And then he's like, give me a number. And I gave him a ridiculous number, like stupid. And then he was like, yeah, there's no way. And I said, well, I told you that you'd say that. And then anyway, whatever. One thing led to another. And I ended up capitulating because the project did interest me. And I also have a bit of a love affair with getting in things from the ground up. Like there's just always a certain element
like
of
that. You've built in the coffee shops. You've done everywhere you went. You kind of, to your point, what you were saying, PK. Some people come and they build stuff. Some people come and you know what I mean. But everywhere you kind of went, you went to build something. Not to you didn't teach English or whatever.
Not to play the game after it was built.
Yeah. So I think that really just played into my psychology or whatever. So then I just said, yeah, mate, let's have a dig. I'll jump on board, and I just pretty much said, for the first 3 months we'll do a trial, and I'll do it for this much. And that number was peanuts, like nothing. Essentially.
But that's essentially what I would when you make the decisions for the right reasons, and it clearly wasn't a monetary decision. It was a decision because you. You bought into Vlad, you bought into his vision, you bought into Apollo and the project, like you said.
Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, man, I think that's that's a good lesson for people at home, right? That you got to follow your heart, not if you were following the dollars, you wouldn't be sitting on this rooftop now, and you wouldn't be doing the things and have the cool team that you've got and the awesome business that you got. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that kind of organically came because you weren't chasing the money. You were sort of following your heart and doing what you wanted to do, man. It's very, very cool, man. And I, just for context, I was here in January 2024, so that's at the start of last year, and that was like 4 months after it launched. Was that roughly accurate? The gym opened.
But when did you come? Say it again.
So January.
Yeah. So the gym technically opened in October, and if you came in January, about 3 months.
Yeah. So that was my story. So I came in January and. To me, it felt like it had been there forever, you know what I mean? Like it honestly didn't feel like a new gym. But yeah, it was just a magical place, and that's where we had, obviously we've had the fight night. So you've been riding shotgun with Vlad since before day dot.
Yeah, since pre day dot. Yeah, pretty much. So, we opened in October, and that was a chaotic open. And then, we had a coaching staff at the time. That's since changed dramatically. And gone, in every which direction. And so then we had our first fight night in January, which is the one that you attended.
That was the first one, yeah, and I was there.
The grand opening.
Away, yeah.
Yep. So then I was meant to actually fight on that card.
I heard that, yeah.
That was my whole, that was the whole, that's why I was essentially training and doing all these sessions with Vlad. I got hit by a car the August before and dislocated my shoulder again, but we kind of like pushed through that. But then because I essentially ended up organising the whole opening, I just couldn't fight and organise and do everything.
Just because you couldn't fight, you helped with the opening, and here we are. You're now the number one promoter of Apollo Fight Night, and Apollo Fight Night's going to the moon. You know what I mean? So is that fair to say? Like, well, you guys, man, we just got to live it, didn't we, PK?
Awesome, man.
That was a surreal experience, yeah, and it was put on by you guys.
Yeah, so so since then, since the grand opening, we've had that was Apollo Fight Night 10. We've had 9 amateur fight nights and 1 pro card.
Yes.
And so that was the gradual build up. We essentially got 8 runs on the board in terms of organising these things and trying to
putting fights together,
trying to improve our processes. There's still plenty of holes in the ship. It's nowhere near as streamlined as it's going to be. Every fight night, I like to think we learn something new and we make set adjustments. Maybe we haven't made enough adjustments over time. However, we've really been running, pretty much up until now, a skeleton crew. Like the crew's been lean. We have been running a lean team.
Yeah, that's how you build a business, though. Like me and Pete, yeah, you understand that. You got to crawl before you can walk. You know what I mean? And that's what you guys have done. And mate. From my perspective, and same as Pete, like what you've done alongside Vlad and the team down there is incredible. And I just reckon you guys keep going, because I guarantee you there's plenty of people on the other side of those cameras there thinking, shit, That sounds like a bit of me, you know what I mean? Fighting in paradise. You don't have to fight. You can come and just train and just feel like part of it and live. Like you said, you get your meal prep, you get your juices. It's all for next to nothing. You know what I mean? Like it's all affordable. Does that relative to, you know, Australia and stuff? So
yeah, absolutely. If you're coming over with US dollars, pound,
Aussie
euros,
dollars.
even Aussie dollars,
Yeah.
it's you could do it big.
Yeah,
and
of course.
You can stay
you
at
can
the
find
Blue.
a way to spend all your money
Of course,
for sure. Yeah,
of
but
course.
if you can also come over here and live I just did it for 2 months, right? And you can live the fighter's lifestyle, and you can just sort of nestle in and yeah, food and everything. The cost of living here is you get the best, you know, for reasonable money, and that's,
yeah,
I think that's the appeal.
you can get away full fighter lifestyle, 40,000 baht a month, but that's a comm, scooter, food, training, and whatever extras. 40,000 a month, the number.
Yeah, that's plenty. Yeah, that's epic. Yeah, this has been awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. Well done, and yeah, congratulations on like Benny said, like getting to a point where we come over. It's all go and it's all quite impressive from your end, but the journey that you've been on is a full on journey, man.
I thought I went on a wild ride. I've been texting me friends back trying to keep up with all the messages and that, and me common line is that was a wild ride. You know what I mean, dude? Like that. You know, testament to you, man. Most people start fucking living the victim life, and you said yourself making poor decisions and stuff, but you pulled yourself off the canvas, man. Sounds like
a few times,
you know, and
man.
I understand why you like fighting, dude, because that's fighting's life, right? You just keep getting back up and you keep moving on and you learn and you keep going, and you've done that, man. It's massive amount of respect, dude. It's been an honour being over here, like getting to work with you, getting to know you, man, and hanging out in the gym and stuff, man. It's been like, it's actually the best part of the whole thing. The fight was just the end of it, the stamp on the end, but it was coming over in the full experience. And you put that on, Andy. You spearheaded the whole thing, dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
well, alongside obviously Vlad and the team.
Of course,
but,
yeah, like cannot discount.
Yeah, of course, man.
The admin staff.
Absolutely, man. And you know what? They're the same ladies, dude. And I love this. I was here in January, and the same ladies on the desk in January, the same ladies now, and that goes to, I think, like that says a lot about I think that says a lot about Vlad and what he's trying to build. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get you. Yeah. No,
local Thai ladies.
Staff retention on Fight Street can be very difficult. Like, it's such a transient place.
I'd imagine, yeah.
Yeah. So people come and go like the wind. So
they're the same ladies.
Yeah, we've got some ladies there that have been there since day dot. So we've got some OG team that are so clutch. Like, the place wouldn't exist without them. You know what I mean? Big shout out Jillian, the head. Our head of admin or head of reception.
Superstar.
She's an absolute superstar, legend, and obviously all the coaching staff. You know, Joe and Joe, Josh,
Joey,
Ash,
Joey Varden,
Stan.
They've
all been there
Pettigrew.
since day dot. A lot of the Muay Thai coaches have been there. You know, head coach Narin, Naris has been there since Rawai days.
Yep.
So yeah, we've got a great team. I'm extremely privileged and lucky to be able to work alongside a great group of guys and girls.
And the pro team as well, right? All the Russian guys and Uzbekistan, all the guys that are living in the gym, man, they just make it a special place. They do. It's crazy that you can go and train alongside these guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah, training alongside the pros is definitely one of, I guess, like the highlights of Fight Street.
Yeah.
It's something that I guess
it's unique.
Yeah.
You literally don't have to ask anyone. You just have to rock up.
Yeah, exactly. And so and yeah, we're very fortunate to have a group of professional fighters, professional boxers, I should say, that are of an extremely high level. Fair enough, they've all only had their first their first pro fight, but their amateur pedigrees are not to be scoffed at.
100%. And if anyone that's been on social media that's seen their first pro fights, you know, they didn't last long.
Yeah, exactly. Well, a couple of them went the distance. Yeah. A couple went the distance, but there were a few whitewashes, for sure.
Yeah. But man, Andy, this has been epic, dude. We're going to get you on again for sure.
Look forward to the next one, man.
Yeah.
The next fight, the live stream, everything levels up from here.
Man, like where there's a lot of synergies. Man. So I don't know what we'll do, but we'll be back, man. We'll do something for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
And we'll be watching, mate. We'll be watching the whole way through. So
yeah, and if
keep
you're
it up.
coming to Thailand, Ollie Davies on Instagram, is that right?
Only Davies.
Only Davies on Instagram. You can also get straight to these guys, Apollo_gym_Thailand.
So at Apollo_camp_Thailand. If anyone has any questions, if anyone wants to come out to Thailand, come to Phuket, whether it's for training, whether it's to live the monk life, don't hesitate to just drop me a DM. I'm more than happy to pass on any guidance or referrals.
Find you a fight.
Yeah, find your fight. Get you
The old matchmaker. You'll make it happen.
Yeah. Get some 16s on you, a bit of headgear. Just bring your mouth guard.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Okay.
We'll cut that.
Okay.
It'll make it more
What,
sense.
do you want me to say
I
something?
wanted to her to say, see you at the top.
Okay, cool. Oh, yes. Okay,
we'll
we'll cut that. Okay, yeah, man. Awesome. Can't wait to get back over here. We'll call another fight night together. I'll get better. Don't worry. I'll work on my shit.
I loved it, mate. I thought we bounced off each other well. I was all about it.
It was, yeah.
You boys, to be fair, man, anyone that watched the stream is going to say the same thing. I don't even need to say, but you boys murdered the commentary.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Very privileged and appreciate your help. But yeah, we'll be back, man.
Sweet.
Keep it up.
Thanks so much.
Anyone that's going to get value out of that, please like, share, subscribe, and, of course...
See you at the top.
Let's go!
You!
Ready?
People want to be part of a winning team.
People can find a better version of themselves if they choose.
You just need to go start some shit.
Action is all that matters.
Be a man of your word.
I think I look back now and I'm like, whoa, that took some guts.
Be kind, be kind, be kind.
See you at the top.